One does get a little bit weary of legacy act these days. It does seem that every other week we're hearing about some long lost sessions or a long lost concert recording that is given the official treatment. And it does look like the Wings have gotten on this act. They're releasing One Hand Clapping only 4 months after Band on the Run was given the 50th anniversary treatment. We're going to check that out today. But first impressions are this is actually not too bad. So the background to this is that it is in mid-1974 that there was some recordings over 4 days. Jimmy McCulloch and Jeff Britten had just joined the band, so they became a fivesome from the threesome that they were on Band on the Run. The idea around what they were doing is to record some footage for a documentary as well as to be used in film clips. That documentary ended up being scrapped and the tracks really got put in the can. We've been drip fed versions of songs from these sessions over the years, but it was never gotten an official release up to now, and you've been able to hear it on bootlegs if you were into them. What you do get is really live in session recordings, so very similar to what you might have experienced live but within a studio context. So this was in Abbey Road, and it does in a lot of ways come through as a greatest hits album for Wings at that particular point in time. So this is a double album, 26 tracks with the standard edition. Of course, we've got the many other editions that are also included. Probably the best ones to mention are really the rockers. They're always the ones that stand out. So really Band on the Run, Live and Let Die and Jet are always standouts. Jet in particular has a vibrancy to it. Other than that, you do get the sense of a band that is getting a lot of chemistry. They are feeding off one another, even though there was probably tensions within the band. We know that Jeff Britten wasn't part of the makeup for much longer after mid-1974. This is probably the most we've heard of his drumming from Wings. There is also Solly, which is a song that was on Wings of America, which is it's a bit of a rocker. It's actually worth checking out. It's one that I haven't really heard a lot of over the years, but it hasn't been given any official treatments as part of an album. So I think it was part of a box set for Venus and Mars a few years ago, but this is the version that really is probably the best quality version I've heard of that particular song. It's well worth a listen as well. Others that are interesting, you have a 3-track roll through of McCartney songs that weren't part of album releases at the time, that were released subsequently to them. I think we've heard of all the songs that we could possibly hear of potentially from McCartney. On the downside, there are actually 3 Beatles tracks that are part of this release. We have Lady Madonna, The Long and Winding Road, and Let It Be. It comes across as really a little bit coy, I think, in running through those particular tracks. I'm not quite certain that it really adds anything. Maybe there is a historical context to it, but if you are looking for this album as a result of these songs, I'd say that you'd be probably going to be a little bit disappointed. But overall, I'd say that this is a really interesting and worthwhile exercise, and I can see myself listening to this actually more than once or twice, which is what I tend to do with concerts these days, especially ones coming from the 70s, where the recordings are all right, but they're just not quite at the level that we can expect these days. I do think that it's worth your time to check out, but I do wonder as whether this could have been part of the Band on the Run package that was released back in February. Now, that one had underdubbed. I thought that was a pretty dubious marketing exercise, if you ask me. I thought this would have been actually much more interesting to have as part of that package. But maybe the idea was that after that particular recording, you had Britten and McCulloch joining the band. It might have been seen to be a slightly different era as such. But let me know in the comments what you think of this particular album. Do you think this should have been actually part of Band on the Run? Is it worthy of a individual release, or should we just be leaving these things to be bootlegs and just be done with it?